My name is Emelin, and I'll be showing you my gel electrophoresis lab project. Electrophoresis. Electrophoresis is a laboratory technique used to separate DNA, RNA, or protein molecules based on their size and electrical charge. In more understandable words, gel electrophoresis is a technique used to separate DNA fragments according to their size. DNA samples are loaded into wells, indentations at one end of a gel, and an electric current is applied to pull them through the gel. DNA fragments are negatively charged so they can move towards the positive electrode. Pros and cons of electrophoresis. Pros: it can increase or decrease molecular sieving by manipulating the pore size, and easier and is faster. But cons are they're not really precise. DNA fingerprinting. DNA fingerprinting is a laboratory technique used to establish a link between biological evidence and a suspect in a criminal investigation. A DNA sample is taken from the crime scene. It is compared with a DNA sample from a suspect. If two DNA profiles are matched, then the evidence came from the suspect. Pros and cons of DNA fingerprinting. Pros: DNA can be used to identify criminals with incredible accuracy when biological evidence exists, and DNA can be used to clear suspects and exonerate persons mistakenly accused or convicted of crimes. Cons: results in some cases may return inconclusive or uncertain. My hypothesis is that larger fragments move slower than smaller fragments. In other words, a heavier color would move slower than the smaller color. I'm saying this because since they have to, take more time to break up as they move. For this assignment, I'll be using 2 alligator cords, 2 small wires, food dye, 9-volt battery, baking soda, agar gel, marking tools, small plastic container, 6 small pipetta, container with water bottle caps, wooden stick, and a knife. So the first thing I did was put the A jar into a pot of water and boiled it at medium for an hour. While my agar jar is boiling, I will be using baking soda and water to make my buffer. I'll be using 3/4 tablespoon of baking soda, and I'll be using 1 cup of water to make my buffer. After mixing in the baking soda and making my buffer, I will be pouring in colors into the bottle cap. The first color I've used is red, the second will be green, the third will be yellow, and then the mixed matching color comes next, which is yellow green. Then the next one will have red yellow, and the last one will have red green. So for this step, I will be inserting 3/4 milliliter of water into each bottle cap. For this step, I will be inserting at least 3/4 tablespoon of maple syrup. In this step, the agar is ready to be poured. So with the agar gel, I take my half cup measuring tool and I measure a half, and then I put another half because total it's supposed to be 1 cup. After pouring in my agar gel, I put in my marking tool that helps me for when I have to put in the colors. After putting in my marking tool, I would leave it to rest for 1 to 2 hours. Once it's hard and ready to take out, I will remove the marking piece. After that, I take my knife and I make 2 slits on each end of the gel. With my popsicle stick, I use it to scoop out both sides. After scooping out both sides, I take my buffer and I pour it into my container. After pouring in my buffer, I'll take my small wire and attach them to both sides of the cylinder. After I attach them to both sides of the cylinder, I take each color. After getting my colors, I'll insert each color into different slots. After putting the wires where they belong, I will be getting my alligator cord and attach them to each wire. So after putting on the alligator cords, I will get my 9 voltage battery and connect each cord to a different side. The red one I'll connect it to the positive and the black one I'll connect it to the negative. While we let everything sit as we check in every mid-hour, we will be reading a case study. On the evening of June 4th, 1982, a white 19-year-old housewife named Rebecca Williams returned home to her Coupler, Virginia apartment with her 3 small children. She didn't lock the door behind her, and a strange man entered her apartment, attacked her, stabbing her repeatedly, dragging her to a bedroom and raping her, then stabbing her again before leaving the scene. On May 21st, 1983, Earl Washington, a 22-year-old black man, was arrested in Warrenton, Virginia on an unrelated case, burglary and malicious wounding. During 2 days of questioning by law enforcement officials from the Virginia State Police, Coupler County, and Fauquier County, he confessed to the Williams murder and to the 3 other rapes. On October 25, 1993, a DNA test performed on the semen from the blanket at the scene of the murder shows that it did not come from Earl. However, Virginia law states that new evidence cannot be used in a trial that has already concluded. On January 14, 1994, Governor Douglas Wilder from Virginia changes Earl's sentencing to imprisonment with possibility of parole. In January 2000, Earl's lawyers requested that additional DNA testing (STR analysis) be performed on the biological sample from the murder of the scene. On October 2, 2000, Governor James Gilmore of Virginia released the STR analysis result that compared DNA from Rebecca Williams and the crime scene of Earl's DNA. In October 1993, DNA test results revealed that Washington was excluded as a contributor of the seminal stain. Because Washington was time-barred by Virginia law, which allowed a defendant only 21 days to introduce new evidence, he was not exonerated. Instead, the Governor Wilder commuted Washington's sentence to life imprisonment. Washington remained in prison for 6 more years before his counsel persuaded the newly elected Governor Gilmore to seek additional DNA testing. In October 2000, Governor Gilmore granted Washington a pardon for the capital murder conviction. However, the pardon was on limited grounds that a jury would have not convicted him based on evidence as it was then known. He was released from prison to parole supervision in February of 2001. This is Earl Washington. So for my data, red, green, and yellow moved, but they moved for the same speed for 2 hours. So red moved 3 inches, green and yellow both moved 1, while the rest didn't move. In conclusion, the lab didn't work as well as I thought it would, because I substituted maple syrup for corn syrup and the colors didn't really move forward. The water got super contaminated, so it was really hard to tell. Also, because I didn't have enough measuring equipment, a lot of things were left even mixed or mixed incorrectly. So I had many challenges with the small pipette as well. If in the future I try this project again, I'll make sure I have the right tools. And also my hypothesis was correct. The color by itself moved more than the mixed. Also, scientists may use this method. Why? Because gel electrophoresis can separate micromolecules like DNA and RNA and proteins, which is very helpful. And this is the end of my lab.